That's Mars. I will be back in a minute with the Mars rover. A lot of Martian dust here. Mars is a very dusty planet. Yes, well, I was trained as an engineer and a physicist. That's my academic training. I have a professional engineer's license in the state of California as a control systems engineer, and I've been involved in fairly sophisticated control systems for most of my career. That doesn't mean, even though we use the word control, that all of these systems are always under control. In fact, many of them are not. In fact, the word chaos is sometimes used in control theory to describe systems that are sometimes under control and sometimes not. And we have a very hard time telling when they're under control and when they're not under control. This is still the subject of much ongoing research. Chaotic systems. I was a project manager on a NASA project, not the Mars rover that you see here or the model Mars, but it gives you the idea. When I say that I was a NASA project manager, that means I did not work for NASA, I worked for a NASA contractor. And it was my job to deliver something to NASA for money. The money is supplied by the NASA program manager who monitors my progress. So there's a real distinction here between a program manager and a project manager. The program manager supplies the money, the project manager supplies the deliverable, as they call it. And so that's the distinction. But you work closely with NASA. And I didn't spend my entire career working for NASA. I did work for other people, a lot of different things all over the world. Had a very enjoyable career. And now I have a library full of books. This may be one of the last libraries in the county or the state of California, because everybody's going to online and computerized books. And even I am doing the same thing. Some of my encyclopedias have already been replaced by DVDs. So but I do enjoy books, and I hope that my library will not disappear before I do. I have a number of subjects that I'm interested in, actually a lot of things that I'm interested in. I probably have a lot less time than I would like to read all the books I want to read. One of my major interests has been military history, and over on that side, that wall is almost entirely military history. This is something I did as an invention some years ago, back in the 1970s. The Environmental Protection Agency and several branches of the Defense Department were all interested, for a variety of reasons, in measuring particles in the air, how many there were under different circumstances, and even how big they were, and I guess if possible to even determine what they were. So what I came up with was a sampling system which sucked samples of air into a chamber, and then what we had was a laser. This is a laser here, small solid state laser, shining a light on this sample, and then a camera over here was taking a picture of it and actually counting the number of particles in the sample and how big they were. The patent has now expired, so I don't mind telling all of the details about it and talking about it, because it's now free and in the public domain. But at the time I did it, it was quite advanced technology. In fact, we were using some of the first photosensitive chips to actually take pictures here. The camera was very small, so it was state-of-the-art at that time, about 35 years ago. But we'll get an invention here. So here is a book, and I'm going to show you the picture of this plane and the title. Can you read the title from there? Lockheed Hudson, and there's a picture of a Lockheed Hudson. That's the plane that my sergeant pilot cousin flew across the Atlantic many times, delivering them to England. Okay, the story about this has to do with the turret in the back, which had twin machine guns in it. There were tremendous shortages of machine guns and various metals during the war. Okay, so the opposing side, the Germans, had learned early on in the war that this turret was very dangerous. And when they saw a plane like this with apparently somebody in it, in the turret, and the machine guns, they tended to avoid it. They would go away from that plane. What they didn't know is we had a great shortage of machine guns and gunners. And so what was in these turrets in the later models in the war, and they were producing these planes in great quantities, were wooden mock-ups of the machine guns and a mock-up of a head. There was no gunner and no guns, but you couldn't tell that when you were flying by very rapidly at a distance. You couldn't tell. So it acted as a protective mechanism without anything actually usable being there. Yeah. So kind of interesting.